guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Tony Fergie. I want to welcome all my subscribers, the old ones, the new ones, the ones that just keeps coming back because you love what you hear. Guys, I have a video I want to share with y'all, and I want y'all to watch it and tell me what you think, because I'm thinking Israel said they're going to help liberate Africa. I'm wondering, who does Africa need liberation from? But more specifically, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he said Ethiopian Jews, the black Jews. But also he said 7 different leaders, I guess from 7 different countries, was at the meeting. But if he's only trying to liberate Ethiopia, why are there 7 leaders at that meeting? And did you guys see the reaction of the leaders once he talked about a electrical cow? See, greed. It's sad when people can use money to catch you because they know you're greedy. But I want y'all to watch this video and tell me what you guys think.
After I liberate the Jewish people, I will go to Africa to help liberate the black people. We have our African brethren, the Ethiopian Jews, who are in our society, and I personally work every few weeks to help integrate more and more and incorporate them in our society. I believe this. I believe in Africa. I believe in your future, and I believe in our partnership. This meeting, I think, will be a milestone. The meeting of 7 leaders from African countries with Israel. I think it underscores the fact that we are in a monumental change in the relations between Israel and Africa, beginning here. It is warranted by the great changes that are taking place in the world. We at once have an enormous boost and jump towards development, towards the possibilities of this new century with all the promises of technology. But at the same time, we have a savage medievalism that seeks to take all our societies back, to destroy them, destroy our freedoms and destroy our hopes. So we at once have to do 2 things: develop our countries into the future and fight back the forces that want to take us to a dark past. And we can do this. I believe Israel is the perfect partner for the countries of Africa. I want to thank deeply all the excellencies, the leaders who came here, again on short notice, to attend this summit. From our conversations, I think we put flesh on this structure. We believe it. It's not something we say lip service. We give lip service to. We believe it. We've begun to do it among our respective countries. But I believe that we see opportunities in expanding this to Africa as a whole. Israel has fought terrorism and has developed, as you say, Mr. President, today. We've developed certain capacities which I think are important for the defense of the world against this global onslaught of terrorism. But equally, we have tremendous opportunities. We've solved our water problem, even though we're a very dry land. We've solved our agricultural problem. We produce with great productivity vegetables, dairy. I always am boasting, which cow produces more milk per cow in the world? You think it's a French cow or a Dutch cow. It's an Israeli cow. It's a computerized cow. Every move is monitored, you know. But we are eager to share this technology in so many fields with our African friends. We think that Israel now is the best partner that the countries of Africa could have, and it's something that is dear to our hearts.
Matter in Israel? If you ask some of the Ethiopian Jews who are citizens of the state, it doesn't feel that way. They've taken to the streets over the past several weeks to protest police brutality and racism in Israeli society. And this shouldn't be confused with the recent protests of African migrants who aren't Jewish and are seeking asylum. But back to the Ethiopians. These waves of protests were ignited in April after a video went viral of police violently beating an Israeli soldier of Ethiopian descent.
שוטר רוצח חייב להיות בפנים! שוטר רוצח חייב להיות בפנים! שוטר אלים תוריד את המדים! למה? תפסיק לעשות את זה גועל נפש.
Solomon Teka, a 19-year-old Ethiopian Israeli, was shot and killed by a police officer last summer.
תעשייתית שפיתחנו, שמיועדת להחליף משחטה. לשאלתך לפני כן, פה אנחנו טוענים את המדפסת הזו בתאי גזע, שאנחנו יודעים למעל לשריר ולשומן, והיא יודעת להדפיס טונות ביום.
טונות?
טונות של בשר מתורבת ביום. זה רק לשם ההמחשה, אתה תוכל לבחור את הסטייק שלך, והמדפסת תתחיל לשחרר סטייקים בקצב תעשייתי. סירליון, אני לא יודע אם אתה אוהב יותר שומן או פחות שומן.
כך
באמצע. view order, slide to print. ופה בעצם המדפסת מתחילה לייצר סטייקים. סטייקים, הייחודיות פה היא שתאי הגזע נשארים חיים אחרי שהם מודפסים. סטייק יהיה מוכן בסביב הדקה.
דקה?
דקה. השלב פה הוא שווה ערך לשלב שבו הפרה נולדת בעצם. הפרה לוקח 2 עד שהיא נשחטת, היא מזהמת את העולם בתהליך. פה זה תהליך שהוא הרבה יותר קצר.
בלי שטח, בלי מים ובלי
בלי
צואה.
שטח, בלי מים, בלי חתימה פחמנית.
בלי פלטות,
בלי פלטות ובלי כלום.
איפה הסטייק?
הסטייק עכשיו מודפס, ועכשיו אנחנו נעבור
זה המקדונלדס של העתיד.
כן, כן, זה המקדונלדס, זו הקצבייה והמשחטה של העתיד.
פאסט פוד.
וההפתעה פה בעצם, אנחנו משיקים היום גם את המדפסת הזו, שהיא סמי תעשייתית, ובואו נעבור למדפסת השנייה, שזה השקה העולמית שלנו, שמדפיסה דג. פה זו מדפסת שמדפיסה מוצר שהוא מוכן לטיגון, מה שנקרא ready to cook. מכיל תאים אמיתיים, אנחנו מדפיסים בו בעצם פילה לוקוס. אין עוד חברה שיודעת לעשות דבר כזה. מכיל תאים אמיתיים, כ3 דקות להדפסה. לוקוס עם טקסטורה מורכבת. עכשיו אני אסגור אותה ונראה לכם כבר את זה מוכן. תן לה להדפיס, ככה זה נראה. ואנחנו נטעם את זה עוד רגע. פילה לוקוס מתורבת, שהודפס מבלי בעצם להשתמש בדג עצמו.
זה מוכן, אפשר.
פעם ראשונה בעולם שדבר כזה קורה.
אני אומר ככה, עכשיו מה?
טוב,
אפשר להמשיך, זה טעים.
Allow me to share with you briefly that in 1945, 13 Jewish men met in the library. They didn't even have a place to meet. This was soon after Holocaust. The ideas they came up with during that meeting were based on 2 facts. 2 realizations that there was a need for them to unite, for them to speak with one voice when it comes to issues pertaining to them and their country. They also realized that their unity was useless if they did not back it up with financial resources. So that is all they did. They united. They said, we may not like each other as individuals, but when it comes to their Jewishness, when it comes to Israel, they stick together like superglue. They also pulled out their financial resources. If I may stop for a second, use Israel as an example and the Jewish people. The Jewish people own this little bitty tiny little piece of land, which is a desert. There's only 15 million Jews around the world. Compared to Africa, we have the largest landmass on earth, richest continent on earth, and over 400 million African diaspora. The Jews, with their little bitty country that is a desert, financially they control the world whether you like it or not. When those Americans in Charlottesville were holding their tiki torches, talking about the Jews will not replace us, you never saw a single Jewish man on television complaining. They complain with their finances. Their dollars speak for them. Jews do not go and borrow money from anybody. They fund themselves. They're probably the most powerful people financially Their money speaks for them. What did we do instead when George Floyd gets killed and many others were on the street? We make noise and that's it. If everybody that protested could put $1 and say, yes, we want to protest, but we're also going to do something about it, now we could get somewhere. We could get somewhere. Translate those voices into finances. Let's make that bridge. Let's create that bridge. Let's take a page from the Jews. Let's understand that as Black people, we are the most endangered species on earth. Let's also make a commitment that how long are we going to allow this carnage to go on? How long are we going to continue to be stupid? It's about the finances, my brothers and sisters. If we do not bring our finances together, if we do not understand that my $85 a month for a year is an investment in not only myself, but my children, my grandchildren, and generations to come, then who are we? What is the solution? Understand that the brain drain out of Africa started over 400 years ago with the children of Africa who were being taken out of Africa as slaves. Remember, when they were choosing which Africans to take out as slaves, they chose the fittest, the smartest, that who they felt would sustain and survive the rigorous journey across the Atlantic, followed by those who have left Africa in recent years in search of greener pastures, some running away from famine and wars. But the end result is Africans around the world are building other nations while we are allowing our beloved continent to languish or be exploited. The colonizers have been in Africa for centuries. All they have succeeded at doing is building infrastructure designed to do nothing but extract resources out of Africa. That's all they have done, and that's all they plan to continue to do. We're the only ones who can change that paradigm. And that means the African diaspora must wake up. That means the African diaspora must understand what is really going on and not understand Africa from the eyes of the colonizers, from the eyes of the media that have chosen to paint Africa as a diseased and dying continent in need of rescue. Let's understand our Africa as African diaspora. Let's understand our role. It's very difficult for African businessmen in Malawi, in Botswana, to think continental. They're struggling to make a living in that little bitty country with all the restrictions and the difficulties of reaching to the country next door, to then ask that same businessman to think continental. But the people who can help with that bridge, the people who are already integrated in a way, people who can come to Africa with an integrated mind, are the children of Africa in the diaspora. Like I said before, $1 million diaspora with $1,000, that's $1 billion. $1 billion is a lot of money. And then you take that 1 billion, let's do it a year in and year out. Financial resources, we need to pull our funds together. We need to begin to look at our continent as a continent. What do the market women in Africa need today? How do we begin to make it possible for the market woman in Nigeria to sell to the market woman in Kenya what she cannot find in Kenya but is in Nigeria? How do we begin to loosen those trade barriers? It's a level one. I'm hoping that the African Continental Free Trade Area can begin to address those issues. But looking at what we have right now, when you see countries still blocking borders, still making it difficult for Africans to travel freely around the continent, all of our challenges, if you begin to understand them, they all go back to the mind. We must open up our Africa. We need a single African currency. It's just that simple. We can't talk about the AFCFTA and still have 44 different currencies. We can't talk about a single Africa if we still have to carry a passport to travel around our country. We can't talk about progress within Africa if we still are having to fight all these various wars in the different countries as little bitty different military. Africa needs to truly begin to look at what are the needs of the continent. How do we move 1.27 billion people? Let's have a strategy for that. How do we feed 1.27 billion people? Let's have a strategy for that. How do we house? How do we clothe 1.27 billion people? That thinking outside the box is what's really going to give us the results that we desire. But as long as Togo is strategizing for Togo, as long as Djibouti is strategizing for Djibouti, we are defeated before the game even begins. And that's exactly where they want us to be. That's exactly where they put us with the Berlin Conference. And that's why it saddens me to think of 130 years later since the Berlin Conference, we're still suffering from the effects of the Berlin Conference. So again, our challenges, while there are many, there are challenges that we can address. But for us to be able to address these simple challenges, like border issues, need for a passport, single currency, single monetary policy, single stock exchange, basic things that we should just do automatically, it goes back to the mind. Because we get so divided. The French are coming in. If you're Francophone, so to speak, why do we even call ourselves Francophone? If we're Anglophone, look at ECOWAS and the ECO in West Africa. They can't come to an agreement on something that is so obvious and so terribly needed. I don't want to sound like a broken record. Our problem goes back to the mind. Our ability to solve our problems, it starts with the mind. I'm sorry to say, but it is saddening, it is disappointing, it is frustrating. And as a mother, you look at it and say, my children, what happened? Why can't we wake up from this slumber? Why can't we wake up and say enough is enough? We got to come together. We got to trust each other. And we've got to protect and defend each other against these invaders. How long?
Okay, guys, what did you guys think? For real. See, I love the way how our mama, Arikana, wrapped it up. Because I don't think Africa needs to be liberated. I think Africa needs to come together as one. And like Joshua Mapango said, if we can get Africa together with the Caribbean, which is the lost people of Africa, do you know how powerful we would be? But it's very concerning about the liberation of Africa. And what's also concerning is what Israel did over there in Gaza to the Palestinians. Are they planning to come and do that in Africa? What's going to happen to the non-Jewish black people in Ethiopia once Israel gets there? It's a thought. If we can just get together and just come together as one and create that one currency and just be together, we will be unstoppable. But sounds too good to be true. Atmosphere is changing, and anything and everything is possible. Because don't forget, the ones that they took out of Africa was the one that they knew was strong. And those fighters, did you guys remember that slave that they took from Jamaica and sent over to Haiti? I got more to talk about that in my other videos. But of course, the stronger we are together, not separated. Anyways, y'all, have a wonderful and awesome day, and know that Tony loves and appreciates y'all. Have a wonderful day.